Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a fantastic presentation about the super dorms of Mansfield Hall. This program is so cool. The minute I met Stephanie, I met her at, it was a conference, right?
Yeah, Gateway, yeah, Transition College Fair.
Yes, yes. So the minute I met her, I just knew that we had to have a webinar with her. We had to tell everybody about Mansfield Hall because this is such a cool program for our kiddos. Um, Before we get started, a couple of items for housekeeping. I was just explaining to Stephanie that we can't see or hear you because we're in webinar mode, but we know you're out there and we appreciate you being here today. And we would love to have your questions and comments. So please put those in the chat box and we'll make sure we get all your questions answered throughout the webinar today. The other thing I want to tell you is that we record all of these webinars that we do. We do 2, 3 webinars every week. We always record them and we always put them on our YouTube channel. So I've put my contact information in the chat box and the link to the YouTube channel. So you can reach out to me directly if you ever need extra help or services. And I can't wait to hear from you. So a little bit about Consolidated Planning Group and who we are and why we do this in the first place is that we are primarily a financial advising firm, but we focus on serving families with an individual who has any kind of intellectual or developmental disability. So we've been doing this for over 30 years. The owner of our company has 2 special needs children. All of us are parents. We have all worked with kiddos with some sort of disability in the past. And we are here to help you understand the nuances of what you need to know, not just everything that a traditional financial advisor would do. I mean, we do all of those things like life insurance and investments and retirement planning. But we do it through the lens of understanding that you have a child that might need your help for the rest of their lives, not just the rest of your life. And how are we going to plan ahead to make sure that you're going to be able to take care of them and provide funding for their care? We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are National Social Security Advisors, and I'm a chartered special needs consultant through the American College of Financial Services. Almost all of our clients have a special individual in their lives. So these families come to us for help with, protection plans. We want your family to be protected through all stages of life, even if something happens to you or your spouse. And what would you do if you couldn't go to work tomorrow, or the main breadwinner in your family couldn't work anymore? We help you think about things like that. Lifetime care planning. We help you consider the future cost of care for your loved one. What is that going to look like, and how are you going to provide that? Transition planning is a big one because there's a lot of changes when your child graduates from high school, or they turn 18, or they go off to a program at a college, or they move into a job scenario. There's a lot of moving parts that you want to consider ahead of time and plan for. We help families with ABLE accounts and understanding how to make sure that your money is in the right buckets so that you don't jeopardize your children's benefits like SSI and Medicaid and SSDI and the waiver programs. And we're here to educate you and to advocate for you. There are, can you believe this number? Stephanie, there are 263,000 financial advisors in the United States. But out of that 263,000 financial advisors, only about 200 focus on special needs planning. That's less than 0.1%.
Wow.
So when you're with Consolidated Planning Group, you are truly with a group of individuals who have tried our hardest to become experts in this area to help you understand the nuances and the things that you need to know, and to clear out the noise and the clutter, because sometimes You have relatives and friends who are well-meaning and they want to be helpful. And they say, oh, well, my friend has a child with Down syndrome and they got this and this and this, and you should apply for that. Well, maybe your family doesn't qualify or your child doesn't need that, and they don't take the time to understand all of it and to provide you with customized help like we do. So we want to make sure that we clear up any rumors, any myths about special needs planning and give you the true information. So, we know that it keeps you awake at night thinking about what's going to happen when I cannot take care of my loved one anymore. Well, for that, we say plan ahead, definitely. Start that special needs care planning now. Don't wait, because when you have a longer runway, you can make small corrections that are going to have a bigger impact. If you leave this planning for later, your runway becomes much shorter, and those corrections need to be major in order for you to get where you want to go. Think about what's going to happen after high school. You don't want your child to graduate to the couch to play video games for the rest of their lives, I don't think. But there are great educational options and residential options, vocational options, transition programs. There's so much out there for our kids to get out into the world and do something more than just lay around the house. Think about touring these places and these programs early because there could be wait lists. And I'm sure Stephanie will let us know if there's any wait lists with Mansfield Hall. And just the last bit of advice that we always want to mention is just be really careful if you think a sibling is going to be able or willing to step into the role of caregiver. We see that a lot because obviously it seems really easy and less expensive to have a sibling just, oh, little Jacob's just going to move in with his sister, Sarah. Sarah will be able to take care of him. She knows him. They're best friends. It's fine. Well, that's a different kind of a relationship. And Sarah might feel, first of all, a sense of obligation and like she's kind of required to take care of her brother, even though she loves him and she wants to be there for him and help you. She's going to have her own family and her own career and her own desires and whatever she wants to do in her life. And she might see this as a little bit of an obligation. And whereas little Jacob, he's had Sarah as his sister and his partner in crime and his best friend for his whole life. And now she's trying to take on the role of more like a parent, and he might become resentful as well. So it can cause friction on both sides of that equation. So we always caution parents, just be careful thinking that, oh, that's the easiest and less expensive solution, so let's go that route. It's not always right for every family. Okay, so one option for your kiddos is going to be Mansfield Hall. And like I said, I am so excited to have Stephanie Welch here with us today because when I learned about this program, I was just so impressed. And your kids are going to have to be a little bit more adventurous. It's not just like sending them off to HCC or Texas Tech or even to San Antonio. But this program is so enriching and exciting. Stephanie, I want you to take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Welch. I'm the VP of Enrollment for Mansfield Hall. And I'm going to share a little bit with you guys today, more about Mansfield Hall. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. As Michelle mentioned, I can't see your faces, which I'm not used to. So
Yeah, that's a little weird for some if you're not used
yeah,
to
please feel
using
free
Zoom
to
webinars.
totally. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And Michelle, do I have control of the PowerPoint or do you? You
Nope, I'm
do.
going to control it. Just
Okay.
let me know if I'm going too slow or too fast.
Okay.
I've got
Perfect. Yep. So really, really big picture. Mansfield Hall is a college super dorm. We are a dorm for college students. where they all go to college at one of the colleges in the local areas. And you can go to the next slide just so that they can see where we are physically oriented. So we are in Burlington, Vermont, Madison, Wisconsin, and Eugene, Oregon. So now thinking to the super dorm, students are going to college, they are having a collegiate experience, they are going to college classes, and then the super part of the dorm are the supports that we're offering to students in academic support, independent living life skill support, social support, and executive functioning support. So here on this slide, you'll see up in the top right, the red brick building, that's in Madison, Wisconsin. Our next slide, we'll talk about the colleges in Madison. The top left is in Burlington, Vermont, and the bottom picture is Eugene, Oregon. And those are our actual dorms on campus.
So have you been to all three and do you have a
Of
favorite?
of course, I've been to all three. And no, I do not have a favorite. I mean, they're all super unique in just their geographical location. So a big factor is where students physically want to be. And then I would say another really big factor is which college you might be interested in. You know, some students really want to go to, and here's our colleges. Some students, for example, might really want to go to Edgewood College in Madison, Wisconsin, or they may really be interested in a community college, but they're open to all three locations. And so we may recommend, you know, Lane Community College in Eugene or Madison Area Technical College, because those are kind of two larger community colleges in comparison to the Community College of Vermont. So these are the colleges that we support across all three of our locations. So students are able to take non-matriculated college classes at all of these schools, with the exception of the University of Wisconsin. And so what that means is they can apply to Mansfield Hall. That's their dorm. That's where they're going to live. And then they could either apply to one of these colleges to be, you know, a traditional freshman in those colleges, a matriculated student working towards a bachelor's degree. But they also have the option of being a non-matriculated student, which means that they can enroll in classes at this time and they don't need to formally apply, be accepted, or commit to one of these programs for the full 4 years of college.
That
So,
is fantastic. Now,
yeah.
one thing, are any of these private universities? Are they public state colleges?
Yep. So University of Oregon, the University of Vermont, and University of Wisconsin are all going to be like larger state schools for students to go to, where Champlain College and Edgewood College are both going to be smaller private schools. You know, Edgewood's your classic liberal arts school. Champlain College has a lot of amazing like game design programs and programming and tech and a more techie focus. And
Mm-hmm.
all three of our locations have a local community or technical college in their area. So we're going to work with each student to figure out which school would be the best fit for them.
And can I just add here, a lot of people shy away from applying to out-of-state schools or private schools. And what I have found, through my own experience and through learning about colleges and stuff, is that a lot of times people think, oh, it's a private school, it's just going to be so expensive. But private schools are smaller class sizes. The kids are going to have smaller support groups and be able to really get into that community. And because these colleges are smaller, they have more funding in terms of scholarships. So you might find that if you apply to some place like Champlain, your student is going to get enough scholarship money that it might make it just as cheap as sending them to a local state college.
Right.
So don't shy away from that just because you think it's going to be too expensive.
Right. And then also another option is the community colleges or technical colleges. And I can understand, you know, because it would be out of state. Well, we didn't hear where everyone is from, but we did see that there were quite a few Texans here on the call. Where for some students, community college may be the best fit, and they still want to have that collegiate college experience as well as begin to build and develop the independent living life skills. Like the actually moving out of parents' home and living in a dorm where they can practice their morning routine, their med management, their hygiene. They can make a group of friends while also going to one of those community colleges also makes a more affordable option as well. So thank you. So our 4 core approach. So these are just the 4 core areas that we're working on. Living. So that's going to be independent living, life skills, hygiene, med management, room organization, cooking, budgeting, all of those things. Learning is going to be our academic supports. And I'll talk more about kind of what a week in the life looks like and how students are getting that academic support, but that's a big part of it. Giving, which is, giving back, volunteering. We have a community outreach director who helps ensure students find opportunities, find meaning, find purpose, and giving back to their communities, as well as engaging, which is the social pieces. So, we have all sorts of different activities and clubs, things to do on the weekend. So engaging. So this is, the Mansfield Hall team. So you think you have a student, they are going to Mansfield Hall, they're going to have a college experience, they're going to go to college at one of those classes. Mansfield Hall is their dorm. And so now the super part, what does that support really look like? So this wheel here, we've got the student in the center. All of our students work on a team. They work with an academic director, a director of student life, a life skills coach, and an academic coach. So every student is going to have 4 one-on-one weekly meetings to work with them on areas of life skills, academic skills, help problem solve, help build routine, help put structure in their weeks. And then in addition to that, at all of our Mansfield Halls, we have community outreach directors, we have community engagement coaches. We are staffed at Mansfield Hall from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then overnight, we have an on-call phone that students can reach a director on call to get anything that they may need. We have a full meal plan at Mansfield Hall, and each of our sites has an in-house chef. And then, of course, we have site leadership at each site. So we've got executive directors, associate directors. So it is really full wraparound support in the transition to college. And what I like to say, softer landing, longer runway. So these are students who want to have a collegiate experience. They want to have a chance at college. And the idea of jumping straight into a traditional dorm just is not realistic for our students. College and independent living very well may be in our students' future, and just having a year or two to practice and transition out from high school is what our students are looking for. Just some pictures. These are just, again, just to kind of break up the slideshow and just, these are our students. And I love the one down on the bottom left. These are 3 of our students at our Burlington site who, they just find community at Mansfield Hall. And socially, potentially, not for all of our students, but for some of our students, jumping straight into a dorm might be challenging. Having to navigate college life and attending clubs, and how to navigate once you get to a club, who do you talk to and how do you talk to them? Really our community is approachable, and we're also going to meet the students where they're at.
So, of course, your students have to be kind of at a certain level to be able to be semi-independent.
Yep.
Are there any students that, might be on the cusp that you may or might want to talk about who can go and who?
Totally. Yes. I'm going to talk about the student profile is in here. I think that would be
Okay.
really helpful to have a visual alongside it. And, but I could can you skip to the next one? I could speak to that right now.
We'll get there when we get there. It's
Okay,
fine.
we'll get there. So this is a week in the life of a Mansfield Hall student. So again, dorm living. So students are free to come and go as they please from Mansfield Hall. And then this is just a mock calendar. So just like, for those that went to college here, your schedule is going to be different than your roommate's schedule, which is going to be different than the student who lives in the dorm room next to you. So everyone's schedule is different. This is just a mock schedule, but this student, for example, is taking 3 college classes. All of our students start with 2 to 3 college classes. They're taking a ceramics class, a creative writing class, as well as a game design class. We offer daily structured study time twice a day at Mansfield Hall. So that's twice a day at Mansfield Hall in our building that we're providing one-on-one academic support for students to provide structure, to provide time management, organization, accountability, all of the pieces of executive functioning. And so this student, for example, goes to structured study time from 6 to 8, 3 days a week in the evenings. Also, they have their 4 one-on-one weekly meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 hour each in their life skills meeting. Maybe they're talking about their med management and what their medication routine is, and maybe they're going to practice some things of how to keep their space clean and organized, and maybe they're going to talk about a roommate dynamic that's been a little bit challenging that they could use some support around. And then in their academic meeting, maybe they are looking at their syllabus for the week with their academic coach. They're getting organized. They're making a list of what they want to work on in structured study time that afternoon. And maybe they're going to work with their academic coach to send an email to their professor as they weren't able to gather all the notes in their college class and they need some support. So that's just some examples of what the meetings might encounter.
I
There's
love
also,
that I was
yeah,
going to say, I love the
yeah.
apartment meeting.
Yeah, weekly apartment meeting. So once a week where students come together, and yes, it is a time to clean, but it's also just a time to communicate, talk about what's going well, what's not going well. A lot of times for our students, self-advocating is something that they're working on. Flexible thinking is something that they may be working on. Compromising. So that's an opportunity to just have a facilitated conversation with a life skills coach. We've got a lot of Dungeons and Dragons going on at Mansfield Hall, a lot of Magic the Gathering, crafts, musicians, all sorts of things. So these are just some activities that may be going on. Maybe the student is also involved on an on-campus activity. Maybe they are really interested in theater and they're doing the, lights for the show at University of Oregon, or maybe they're in the running club or whatever it may be. And then, we've got weekly community gathering, and we're also serving meals 3 times a day. So the student goes to breakfast club, maybe on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because they have classes those days. They're eating cereal in their apartment. But, it's a college schedule is what this is to show. So here we are. So
Here we go.
who are our students at Mansfield Hall? Typically, it's 2 parts. The first part is diagnostically. It's a bell curve, as you can see here. About 65% of our students probably would most closely identify with ASD1 or high functioning autism. Maybe formerly had a diagnosis of Asperger's, which is no longer on the DSM-5, but ASD1, I would say, is the majority, 65%. About 10 to 15% may also have a diagnosis of ASD1 and may have traits of ASD2. And then about 20 to 25% of our students are not on the autism spectrum, and they may have diagnoses like ADHD, nonverbal learning disabilities, social communication disorder. But really the thread that ties all 100% of our students is going to be executive functioning challenges. That's really what we're supporting students around. So like organization, shifting, task initiation, time management, emotional regulation, working memory. These are the areas that we're really going to be supporting students with daily, multiple times a day. And then, who they are, just when we do tours, if I have a student and I'm meeting with a student, really what I'm looking for, number one, first and foremost, is nice, kind individuals. We are providing students with support, and I'm just noticing there's a question, but I'll come back to that, or maybe you'll look at it, Michelle.
Oh, yes.
We will we're providing a safe, supportive environment for students to be vulnerable, to move into this next phase of life. And the way that we are able to create that community is filling it with nice, kind individuals. 2 is college capable. So and this is kind of to your question, Michelle, we have students at Mansfield Hall who may be working towards a certificate at the community college, all the way to students who may be on a $40,000 scholarship at UW, and everyone in between. Really what we are looking for is the student's ability to independently navigate that 2 to 4 hour college campus experience. So we help with navigation, making sure a student knows how to get to and from their class. And once they know that, like, it's up to them to kind of behaviorally, emotionally navigate that 2 to 4 hour college experience. Then they come back to Mansfield Hall where they have the full wraparound support. We can help them pre-process, post-process. We can help send follow-up emails. We also go with students to their first accommodations meeting at the college. We ensure that they get all of their accommodations in place. We help advocate for their accommodations. And then we serve as case managers throughout the year to ensure that their accommodations are taking place. And so, yeah, college capable. 3 is quirky or quirky compatible. So you don't have to be quirky to come to Mansfield Hall, but you got to be cool with quirky. Your roommate might be quirky. So by quirky, I mean inclusive. You know, a lot of our students have very unique interests and passions. And so just being open to being a part of that type of community. Number 4 is community oriented. So again, we have a full on community. Like you walk in and it's kind of the Hogwarts feel of just like, oh, wow, like people here know each other and are just unique and involved. And of course, everyone has a different level of social capacity and their social cup is going to be different. And we certainly meet students where they're at. And we are looking for folks who are open to being a part of our community. And of course, that can look different for everyone. And then number 5, which I always star and highlight, is a willingness to partner in the coaching model. We use a coaching model at Mansfield Hall, so we really rely on students' intrinsic motivation and buy-in to not only be in college, but to be at Mansfield Hall. So we use things like collaborative problem solving, motivational interviewing, and we work with students who are willing to vote with their own 2 feet. So that's who our students are. I hope that kind of, no.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
blown away by your program every time
yeah,
I talk to you.
yeah. So, let's see here. Preparations for students and families when considering Mansfield Hall. I think this slide is really more so if and when a student wants to explore the admissions process further. These are some things that I would be talking with a student or family about in the admissions process. Like, what's your buy-in? You know, what's your self-awareness and your openness to gathering support? Obviously, in the admissions process, we do a full file review. So that's going to be like a neuropsych or an IEP where we're going to review a student's current support plan, what it looks like, what's the support look like at home, how much support is mom and dad offering to a student, how much support are they getting in the classroom, in their school environment. And then what we say is like how we get to well-informed decisions is a well-informed understanding of a student's needs, plus the varying different levels of support that we offer in post-secondary. And then that's how we then would come to an admissions conclusion, both for ourselves and then for the family as well. So, you know, this slide here, a lot of times on admissions calls, I will, you know, talk with the student. They'll come visit Mansfield Hall. We'll talk with their ancillary providers who are like their teachers, their therapists, their coaches. We'll do a comprehensive review of their file. And sometimes students or families come to me and they're just like, how do we know? You know, how do we know if this is enough support? How do we know if this is too much support? How do we know if this is the right level of support? And so these are the 3 kind of steps that we have shared with students and professionals and families in thinking about, does my student need support in this transition to college? And what we say is, number 1, can your child or student independently and early identify that they're having a challenge? So for example, you know, they're at college, they're in a dorm room, they know that classes start today, but they don't know where their class is. They don't have the books for their class. They aren't totally sure how to log onto their portal, which is how they might find their location of their class and get their books. Can they identify, I think I have a problem. There's something here that needs some solving. Okay, number 1, can they do that? Now, if they're able to do that, number 2, can they independently and early identify the resources to solve that problem? So for example, okay, I don't know where my math class is. I don't have my book and I don't have my portal. I should probably get up and out of my dorm. I should probably go to the admissions office or to the support services office at my college. So I got to know where that is, or I got to be able to Google that on my phone to find that. And then I got to be able to self-advocate and navigate the conversation with the support person or the admissions office and help helping them help me figure out where it is that I go to my math class. And then I'll figure out how to get my book from talking to my math teacher. Okay, so that's number 2. Then number 3, can they then implement that plan? So, okay, so now you have figured out that you need to go to the support service office, and they have told you that the math building is in this this building on campus, and they've given you the website to order your book, and they have sent you to the help desk to find your portal login and information. And all of this, it's a lot to manage, especially if executive functioning is not one of your strong suits. And so we have found that if one of these 3 steps is not fully developed, or the skill set in one of these 3 steps is not independent and early identified, then that's when college becomes more challenging, because college is an array of obstacles and challenges that come your way, which is an awesome opportunity for growth. And Mansfield Hall is going to support students in building skills in these 3 core areas.
I love that so much. I heard a phrase yesterday in our webinar that I really loved, and it's the dignity of risk, allowing them to make small, safe mistakes in a safe setting
Right.
and have that pride of being able to say, yeah, I had a challenge and I got help and I was able to figure out how to solve that challenge.
Yeah.
That provides so much growth for students and helps them. We have to allow them to face challenges.
Oh, totally. And we expect that at Mansfield Hall. Like, we actually we do a bridge to college orientation, which is 5 weeks before the fall semester. We follow the college calendar, and we have built in a 5-week bridge to college where students come for 5 weeks, and we expect to hit road bumps. That is why we are here. If we weren't expecting that, the student probably would just go into a dorm independently. And we feel that certainly, like, you have to fall off the horse in order to learn what it feels like and how you fell off the horse to learn to ride the horse again. And at Mansfield Hall, there is going to be a safety net under the horse, in that when you fall, it will be a much softer fall than if you're falling fully independent. For example, I will often sometimes get phone calls from families in November or December, and their student has gone to college independently, and they thought everything was going well, because the college does not reach out to families to share, your student's not going to class, they got a D on this class. That is solely up to the student to manage and report on and be aware of. And so I will sometimes get a call from families at Thanksgiving, or, in between Thanksgiving and the winter holiday, sharing, like, I just found out that my kid hasn't been to math class. Just back to that example that I had used. They weren't able to identify, and then they were feeling shame. They were feeling embarrassment. They are totally capable of the math class, but just all that it takes to initiate and to get there. And so we have set up this 5-week bridge to college orientation where we expect students to hit road bumps, and we expect students to have challenges, so that we have the opportunity to grow with them in that 5 weeks before we even have to get to math class. So the admissions process for Mansfield Hall, if you are interested in learning more about Mansfield Hall, we typically start with an initial phone call that is about an hour-long phone call, and that is the first 35 minutes is just learning everything about your student, their strengths, what they're good at, what they like to do, what their social circle is like, what supports are helpful for them, what their morning routine looks like, what they want to do next year in this next transition, just learning everything we can about the student, and then answering any, even a deeper dive on life at Mansfield Hall. What our support and services are going to look like. Go ahead, Michelle, did you have?
I was curious, would this initial call be with the parents or with the students or
Yeah,
with
I would say,
everybody?
yeah, I would say 80% of the time it is just with the parents and the admissions person. And sometimes we have a student who really wants to be involved, and that is totally welcomed. So if a student wanted to be a part of the conversation, if a parent wanted their student to be a part of the conversation, that's very welcomed. And I would say 80%, we just start with just parents, just because I have found they can be a little bit more frank about, kind of where the strengths are and also where the opportunities and challenges are. So then we do a file review. That's going to be a neuropsych evaluation. We recommend families have neuropsychs within the past 2 to 3 years. That's how students are going to get the best college accommodations. 3 is ancillary providers. So that's speaking with a teacher, a therapist, a coach, just 2, maybe 3 folks who can speak to the strengths and opportunities for growth of a student. We then have an application, both a parent and student application, and a tour. We can do virtual tours. We can do virtual tours of all 3 of our locations in one tour, and also if you were mostly interested in one of our locations. So currently for this upcoming fall, we are full in our Burlington, Vermont location, but we do have waitlist availability. So if you're interested in Burlington, Vermont, and we do have for this fall, we do have a a few spots left in our Madison, Wisconsin and Eugene, Oregon locations. That's for this fall of 2025. We will begin working more closely with our fall of 2026 families soon. I mean, we're definitely starting the conversation, and our applications will open up to those families in mid-July, and our early action offers will start to go out to families as of October 1st for our fall of 2026.
So is it too late for this year?
It is not too late for this year, especially for Madison, Wisconsin and Eugene, Oregon. If you're interested in Burlington, Vermont, we may have to talk just kind of like what the wait list and timeline might be around a wait list. But in Madison, Wisconsin and Eugene, Oregon, we do have space for this fall. And our move-in date for Madison, Wisconsin is going to be on Monday, July 28th. And our move-in date for Eugene, Oregon is going to be on Tuesday, August 18th. Oh, here we
There you
go.
go.
We follow a college calendar. So, students go home for Thanksgiving break. Students go home for fall break. We are open all year round, but we follow a college calendar. So we have that 5-week bridge to college orientation. We then start students off in the fall. We oftentimes will have a spring enrollment. So in Madison and in Burlington, that's going to be in January, and in Eugene, because they're on the trimester, that's going to be in March. And those are really the enrollment days. We are not open enrollment we are rolling admissions, but we are not rolling enrollment. And so students really move in those 2 to 3 times per year.
Now, if a student if they don't go home for Thanksgiving break or whatever, they are allowed to stay there at Mansfield Hall?
Yep. We are open year round with the exception of 2 weeks over the winter holiday.
Okay, great.
And Lorna, I just saw your message. No, it would not be too late. Especially in our Eugene, Oregon location, it seems to be we have a lot of 23-year-old students in our Eugene location, and we have a lot of students who will call us if they haven't been in school for a few years and starting maybe at like Lane Community College, just dipping your toes into it. So I'd be happy to talk more with you about that. This is just another kind of plug. Since we've opened Mansfield Hall, we've also started a study abroad program in Reading. Really our goal has been to offer students the ability to have a collegiate experience for those students who maybe wouldn't have been able to access that experience through traditional college living, but want that. And so the Reading program was inspired off of one of our students, actually, who went on the study abroad. He went to Dublin with the University of Vermont, and he came back from that experience and was like, that was incredible. And and that inspired us to want to be able to offer that to more of our students. So we now have a partnership with Reading University where we will send some of our connection students. Students live with us residentially about 1 to 2 years. And then about 65% of our students move into our connections program. And that is where they live fully independent in an apartment, on campus dorms, and they receive non-residential supports from Mansfield Hall. And so our study abroad program is mostly created for our connection students, just because you do need that level of independence to be able to go study abroad.
Yeah.
And Canopy College Coaching so it is under the same founders of Mansfield Hall. It's kind of like an umbrella of ownership, but Canopy College Coaching is virtual executive functioning for students at college anywhere in the country. And so there are a few different plans, but we support students anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of virtual executive functioning coaching per week. So that's going to be on your computer, but it might be like your coach getting on with you and pulling up your syllabus together and helping you orient. Maybe you're pulling up the map of the campus together and circling on the map, where your classes are and talking about how your morning routine is going. That student profile is going to be a little different because they're then going to have the ability to shut the computer and initiate whatever it is that you've discussed. Where a student at Mansfield Hall would leave that coaching conversation, and then maybe that coach is going to say, okay, so now what do you like? Now, where are you going to go from here? And there's just that in-person full wraparound where Canopy is going to be for a student who has a little bit more of independence, but some prompting, some coaching is going to help them move through their week. And so we have a full virtual Canopy College coaching team.
And that's available for students at any school, anywhere.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's really great. And then, connect with us. Like I think following us on social can just be a great way to see what life is like at Mansfield Hall. It's a lot of just like pictures and videos of things going on day to day. And so I always recommend families follow us if they're interested in seeing. And also if you have a student at Mansfield Hall, then you get to see what they're up to.
Yeah, I love that. You can kind
Yeah.
of spy on them a little bit.
Yeah. So anyways, that is Mansfield Hall. And I'm open. Oh, and then I think Michelle, you had a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I do. I have a little bit more, but I just want to make sure that, you know, everybody has a chance to scan the QR codes if they would like to. And you will receive these slides later on today. So you're going to be able to grab this later if you miss it right now, or you decide maybe you want to check it out later. I am just blown away by this program. And now, can we talk a little bit about the cost and about how
Yes.
much does this add to the overall room and board tuition
Yes,
bill?
yes, yes. So our annual tuition for this upcoming fall is going to be for our Madison and Eugene, Oregon locations is $83,000 per year. So that is for the full year. And that $83,000 includes full room and board, full meal plan, full wraparound support, as well as ticketing and activities for clubs. So the only additional cost will be the per credit cost of the college tuition. So all of our students start with 2 to 3 college classes. So it is not a full course load. And that cost will differentiate depending on if you're looking at the community college versus, the major university or
Of
the
course. Yeah.
local private colleges. And then our Burlington, Vermont location, just due to demand and the size, Burlington, Vermont is our largest location. We have about 50 students in Burlington, Vermont, and we have about 20 to 25 students in both Madison and Eugene. Burlington, Vermont's tuition is $88,000 per year. So that's going to be all of your costs except for the per credit cost. So obviously you're not paying full tuition at the college. You're paying just for like a college class. And I would say college classes typically run from anywhere from like 1,200 to 5,000 a course, depending on which school you go to.
Right. And are there any scholarships
Yep.
or?
So we unfortunately don't have scholarships, but we do accept 529 and 529A. I'm not a tax advisor. I can't give tax advice, but Michelle can probably.
Yeah, I
Um,
can tell you
always,
all about the 529 ABLE and
yes,
the 529 College Savings Plan.
yes. And also just like any tax write-offs at the end of something, depending on what the use of the program was. So I would really advise you to work with someone, either Michelle or someone on Michelle's team, to best understand, what you can use and what resources are available to afford something like this. We also have some links on our website that shares some scholarships or grants that are available to students and families. And then the other piece is just with the college tuition part, if you are eligible for FAFSA or scholarships. Sometimes we do get students who get scholarships to the college, so that could offset that cost. I also recommend, I don't know, I'm not as familiar with the vocational rehab or regional centers in Texas, but we have had some success with out-of-state placements in when if Texas or wherever the state that you're coming from doesn't have an option like Mansfield Hall, I always recommend students and families reach out to their regional or voc rehab centers and see if this is something, because it's not available in the state of Texas, would they be able to offset? And we are able to send something that breaks down our costs so that you can see like what the support and services cost versus what room and board costs versus what the meal plan costs. And that can sometimes allow other funding options as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you so, so much, Stephanie, for
of
setting up this
course.
webinar. And I think I'm definitely wanting to add both the Canopy information and the Mansfield Hall information into our regular college webinar that we do.
Yep.
So I've already sent that to Meredith. So, like I said, we do 2 or 3 webinars a week, and we always put them on our YouTube channel. And it's different things like post-high school educational options and future cost of care and the waiver programs, government benefits 101. These are the kinds of things that we walk our families through, helping them understand and making sure that everything is set up for their loved one. The legal side, like with a special needs trust and guardianship. No, you won't take students with guardianship, right?
So, but
I
with
mean, I don't,
yeah,
guardianship is the same as conservatorship.
yeah, no, I mean, we could consider that. You mean, so like, for example, if they had to go and get, any medical, they would be under guardianship and they would need parents to sign for anything that they.
Yeah, I think though guardianship is a little bit, it's more intense than just that. So I think maybe
So
you
I'd
would
have
be,
to learn a little bit more. I wouldn't say that we're like tailored or geared towards supporting, I would have to just learn a little bit more about what that looks like for the student and family, what restrictions that would have. It's definitely not a rule out, but I
okay,
just have to hear a little bit more about it.
very good, very good. When you get these slides later on today, everybody, you're going to be able to click this link to go to our upcoming webinars, and you can pre-register for some of the stuff that we have coming up so that you'll get reminders and you'll get the slides and the link, even if you are unable to attend live. You'll still get that. And then, of course, at Consolidated Planning Group, we always offer a free Zoom consultation. It's usually 30 to 45 minutes, depends on how many questions you have, what you need to figure out. Our first goal in this Zoom consult is to answer your questions. And then we'll get into learning more about you and your family and your loved one. And then we'll talk about how we can help and what we charge and what our process looks like. You can use the QR code or call or email the office, or you can call or email me personally, and I'd be happy to set that up for you. I've just put my contact info in the chat box again for you. And
Yeah,
then,
and
of course, this page
well,
has our social media. And then finally, I want to show you, this is our whole team at Consolidated Planning Group. Even though we are located just outside of Houston, Texas, we serve families all across the United States. So don't be shy, reach out to us, have family and friends and anybody you know anywhere in the United States can reach out to us and get some help. I really truly appreciate you so much, Stephanie, and everybody for being here with us today. I hope that you're going to reach out with questions that you might have and watch out for our upcoming webinars as well.
so Michelle, should folks can just email me directly, or if anyone wanted to share their email, I'm happy to follow up. You can send it directly to me, whatever works.
Well, everybody who registered for today's webinar, shocker, we collected your phone numbers and your
Oh,
email
perfect.
addresses and your names, and we're going to be reaching out to see if there's anything that we can do to help you. If not, just be polite, say no. Look at all these smiling faces. You don't want to hang up and be rude to them. But, just no thank you. We don't need your services right now. We're going to keep watching your webinars or whatever. But we will definitely send you the information that we have gathered, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for spending your lunchtime with us. I hope you've had something in this webinar that has been informational and helpful for you, and that you continue to view our webinars. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks, Michelle. Bye, everyone.